Yep.
All right, we're gonna have about a 20-second delay. So we'll give it time to get going, and then I'll introduce everybody. I'll share my screen. And then if Jake, if you just want to have me go to the let's see. If you want to have,
do you have to be the one that does the slides?
yeah, well, we can see.
Okay.
It's possible that you can run through.
Okay.
It says we're live on Facebook right now.
Did that work? Can you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Are you sure? This is our first time doing a Facebook Live through Zoom. So we're just making sure that we're on and we're good to go. So if you guys are logged in, just be patient with us for a minute while we make sure we're all good to go.
Yeah, this is what we're seeing on Facebook.
Okay, great. So my name is Jacob McCarg. Again, I'm the city manager, and we're happy to have you for our 4th episode of the Facebook Live series. Today, we're going to be talking about the Lakeshore developments and the improvements that we have planned along the Lakeshore. And we have a couple of people here with us today, so I'll introduce them. So back here with me is Morgan Brim. He's our planning director. We have Jacob Holdaway, and then council member Tice Flake. Jake is in charge of a really exciting project, and we wanted to bring him on today to share some details with the residents about that. And that is Wakera Way. That's what you see on your screen right now. So we'll turn the time over to Jake and let him give us some details about the plan that they have on the Lakeshore. And this is on the south end of the city, and then down south all the way into Orem and Provo. So take it away, Jake.
That's correct. So hopefully you guys can hear me. My name is Jake Holdaway. I live on Holdaway Road. For those that don't know me, I live in one of the older homes, the Holdaway homestead property of the Walter Holdaway home. Today's conversation is going to be centered around what the property that is below Sleepy Ridge Golf Course, which is the south end of Vineyard, very south end. To talk a little bit about it, there's about 1,000-acre wetland parcel that is broken up across 20 different property owners, private, public. The federal government owns pieces of it, the state owns pieces of it, and then private landowners have grazing rights to it. Some have titles, some don't. And there's been a problem or litigation in this piece of property going back over 50 years as to who owns the property and who doesn't, and how do we solve the property. And so to kind of discuss the Wakera Way proposal or project, you kind of have to understand the history of this particular piece of property. So as I scroll over here into Google Maps, you can see Sleepy Ridge Golf Course. To give you the size and scope, Sleepy Ridge is about a 90-acre golf course. It used to sit on my father's dairy farm, and a few other properties, Kay Holdaway and a few other property owners at that time. The Wakera Way footprint, depending on the height of the lake, can fluctuate anywhere between 1,000 and 1,200 acres in property. So it's about 10 times the size of Sleepy Ridge Golf Course. And it scrolls all the way down into the footprint of the city of Orem. It goes into federal property, which is Powell Slough. And then on the southern end, down into where Provo High School is, and then also connecting into the June Sucker Reserve of the Provo Delta project, that they're going through on that restoration property. So there's a lot of property into this. Back into the 1970s, if you will, there was a dispute in ownership of who actually owned this property. It was hard to determine at that time what the level of the lake was. And the level of the lake would fluctuate up and down. And the property owners, City of Orem and others, felt that they owned the property. The farmers did, and the state felt like they did. And it went into a lawsuit that they fought for many decades, 30 or 40 decades. And prior to that lawsuit, as my father and grandfather remembered the property, it used to be managed. It used to have a grazing setup to where the Phragmites weren't tall. We would have scout camps down there. There were natural trails that you could walk through because the vegetation wasn't so thick. And the mosquitoes were manageable. It was very reduced because the water was opened up. And when you have open water instead of stagnant water, you can get small minnows and fish that eat the mosquito larvae. And so it was a really great recreational place. And in those times, you know, you allowed people to come onto your property and enjoy it. So there were a lot of festivals and things that went down on the lake. As Vineyard has shifted and changed, we're no longer dairy farmers, my dad and my grandfather. And as the 9 farmers in Vineyard and in Orem and down into Provo have left, those herds of cattle have left as well. Now, I also want to point out, before the farmers were here, there were natural herds that would eat it down. You'd have buffalo, wild horses, elk, and deer. And so the Native American tribes would come down onto the lakeshore as well. And if you think back 100 years ago, you need to understand that we were a desert, so there wasn't so much vegetation. And so all of these natural herds would naturally come down and eat and clean up and maintain a clean shoreline. Well, those natural herds are not going to be coming back in the forces that we need to have a healthy ecosystem. And so what we saw, that from my childhood, 25 years ago, we've seen just a massive forest of nutrients. Phragmites grow up to be 15 to 20 feet tall and then lay down and whatnot. And so being one person that has extreme history and knowledge of the litigation and all the different property owners, I decided to approach in an ambitious way to how do we solve this problem and what do we do with it, just knowing the history of it. And so there's a lot of public interest in this. Some of the things that we need to restore and save on the federal property side is the massive amount of fishing and hunting that can take place on there. And so in trying to find a great compromise for all parties that are involved, that was one of the interests that we said, hey, we've got to be able to protect this. Another one of the public interests that we're protecting or need to be protected are the great eagle's nest or osprey nest that used to happen or used to be there. In fires that have occurred, there's been a lot of devastation that's happened, and they've destroyed the tall trees that the eagles and osprey have needed. And so in working a compromise, how do we get a wildlife protection in place to be able to go through and do that? The other thing in consideration that we're having right now with urban sprawl is the massive amount of mosquitoes. We know that this is the source of where our mosquito problem is coming from. Currently, the county, Utah Lake Commission and the state put in hundreds of thousands of dollars dumping chemical over these areas to kind of reduce the mosquito, putting it over water and other things. And it just isn't sustainable. It costs too much money. And working with Utah State University, the Department of Natural Resources, they know that if we were to be able to put in a cattle grazing reduction in mosquito habitat, we would see a significant reduction in mosquitoes and also gnats and other vegetation. So the other thing that we need to save and preserve is the history. As my grandparents and great grandparents came here, they know that there were 6 different districts of Indian tribes that came, lived for hundreds of years. If you go down onto our property, we're able to find arrowheads, grinding stones. When I was a kid, that was one of the funnest things we did. In fact, in embracing Mayor Kafusi of Provo, when she jumped on to supporting this project, she remembered as a child coming down to the shoreline and doing that when she was younger, and couldn't believe that what had happened in the years of the buildup of all the vegetation. The other public interest that's really important to the project is a bike trail. As part of the state of Utah trail, the state has had a desire to connect the Utah Lake Bottom Trail, the Provo River Trail, to the Jordanelle Trail over in Saratoga Springs. And obviously this crosses over the Wakaraway footprint. And so working with the private landowners, how can we ensure and connect everyone so that it would be an interconnected path that goes along the lakeshore? The other things that we have, Vineyard's invested heavily into their beach. So how can we get access on the trail to go from beach to beach? And so in a synopsis of Wakaraway, Wakaraway is basically a public and private partnership where we can work together with the city of Vineyard, the city of Orem, city of Provo, Utah Lake Commission, the state of Utah, UTA, UDOT, MAG Association of Government, and the federal government, and then all the universities. I kind of laugh because there's a lot of government entities that touch this. But how do we have a master plan for this wildlife area? I just want to show a few things of what happens when you reintroduce a natural grazing pattern. This is not a farm. This is not a manure type situation. This is every major lake in the state of Utah has a grazing program connected to it naturally. You can go to the Heber Ranger District or Spanish Fork or Payson and see these. In fact, Utah Lake is the only lake in the state of Utah that does not have a grazing program connected to the lake. And funny thing, that's why we have a problem. So this picture here is of Ogden Bay. On one side of the river, you'll notice that there is massive vegetation and phragmite. On the other, you'll notice it's clean and bare and open water. And that's because they have a rotational of cattle that come through and pick it off and keep it clean. And so the Wakaraway footprint is to bring all of these government entities together and private to try to find some sort of negotiated truce to instead of be fractions and not work together, how do we work with each individual property? There's a lot of different property owners. And so how is that negotiation? How do we work together? Number 2, how do we have a master plan financial setup to how does it work? There's a lot of federal grants, state grants, MAG grants that can facilitate this. And so that's a really important part. Step 3, which is happening December 1st, we will be putting up a pilot project on the WR Holdaway, or my father's section of property, to educate everyone about the reduction in mosquito habitat, how to open up clean water. And so we're really excited that we're there already. Step 4, it will be coming in the spring, which is we have some water lines that go through the property that are creating stagnant water instead of open bodies of water for wildlife. How do we use those water sources to have open wildlife habitat instead of stagnant water, and repairing those century-old filled drains that my great-great-grandfather designed and put into the property? The next is, how do we engage the public? Once it's been fixed, how does the public come through the trail? Do we need to have cattle guards so that people don't have to get off their bike? That's where we're at in the designing phase right now in Utah, or sorry, the Mountain Land Association of Governments is heading up that trail delineation part of things. The next is, what are the access points to get down in here? We all know of the Vineyard ones, natural ones of Center Street, the Vineyard connector, somewhere onto the Clegg property. Is that soon will be, when it does get developed, if we could have a connection there. And then when we get down into Orem, the University Parkway parking lot for Pauslu, how do we connect to that? And then also the Provo High School, being able to connect there, and the Delta project down so that it connects down to the Provo Boat Harbor. So if you could imagine, it's a 1,000-acre project. What's been amazing to see is the amazing work of all those that are participating in this. We have a lot of different government entities that have a voice. And so to kind of help you understand how we work with that, I've organized a task force of the 20 government entities, and we get together at the county building once a month or once every other month, depending on progress. And everyone voices their interest in the property and protecting different things, like, for example, wildlife for DNR, or trails like the city. And we make sure property owner concerns, or what they're wanting, or how we could get a right of way of parks. So there's a lot of different moving parts to it, but we started this about 2 years ago, and it's been amazing to see things come together. So with that, I'll turn it over to you guys. That's kind of an overview.
Okay, thanks, Jake. Yeah, we're really excited about the Wakara Way project. We've been excited to see the momentum kind of grow, and like Jake said, we've been meeting on this for 2 years, so it's exciting to see these next steps taking place. For the rest of this, we're going to have Morgan and Tice give us a quick overview of what's going on in our downtown. Vineyard is one of the cities on this that surround Utah Lake that has really embraced the lake. And so Tice, I don't know if you want to share the news. You can maybe fill them in on your role with the Lake Commission, and we'll pop up the downtown plans, and you can share the news about the county grant.
Okay. Well, as Jake said, I sit on the Utah Lake Commission, one of my duties in the council. And the Lake Commission is a gathering of all the governmental bodies in Utah County, as well as the state entities that have anything to do with Utah Lake. The commission's major role is obviously some of the things that was already discussed with Wakara Way, which we are supporting strongly as a commission. We also deal with the reduction of phragmites around the whole circumference of the lake, water quality, the creating of connections to the fragments of trail that now surround the lake, the lakefront development access. Like on the other side of the lake, a lot of the commission's interest has been in development of Lincoln Beach and a new boat harbor in Saratoga Springs. We have obtained a grant from the Lake Commission for Vineyard for the development of the old county lakefront park, which will be to the west of the new downtown development and on the edge of one of the major connections. Originally, that grant was to build a non-motorsports recreation park. And we've been moving ahead on that. Some of the discussion in the future will be on that. We have cleaned up the park. We've acquired some equipment, and we're on our way to develop a section of the lakefront that is directly, as I said, to the west of our new major development. We've also made a cut in the bank of the lake at the end of Center Street, so we can have access down to the lake, which in the past you had to put your life at risk in going down the steep embankment that was very slippery. And we're doing other things to develop what we view as one of the major assets of the city, and that is the lake. We have more lakefront access and ability to access than most of all the cities in the county. We're excited about the possibility, in cooperation with the developers, of future development along the lake. We have had discussions with a number of developers and landowners about future access, such as at the end of 400 South, and again along the new city development side. It is exciting to me because I look at that lake every day as I walk along the trails as, oh my gosh, it's just this huge benefit that's sitting there and kind of waiting for somebody to own it, grasp it, make use of it. And I think we're well on our way in doing it. The city has large plans, which Morgan, I'm sure, will tell us at great length about, and I'm proud to support. Morgan?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Tice. I think the county has caught the vision, and that's where they spent a lot of their TRCC funding this year was on lakefront improvements. And we're happy to announce that we got almost $3 million from the county for the plan that Morgan's going to present, and kind of Tice alluded to, that is around our downtown. So it'll be a good connection for the city from the front runner station that's coming in to the lake, and then the improvements there at the lake will be a great benefit to our residents and also visitors that come to the city as well. So Morgan, if you want to go ahead and talk about these plans.
I think it's very fitting to have Jake Holdaway talk about the Walkera Way project, because as you go north from the Walkera Way project, that's the very southern end of the city. It's all about conservation and keeping really large natural open spaces and providing great trail connections and highlighting the history of the area. And as you head north, you get more and more urbanized. And this is actually a really great opportunity for us as a community to be really the only city to have a downtown right on a lake. And so you don't see that really anywhere else in Utah. Our downtown will interface directly with the lake. And so we thought it was a real amazing opportunity for us to focus our resources to do what we can to really make this a different place. It's not just a park next to a lake, it's a downtown on a lake. And so I wanted to kind of highlight that. So you can see from this map right here, and I'll be quick with the town center, I'll get more to the lake improvements, but this is about 340 acres, the downtown. And to orient you, this is north, so the left side of the screen is north. The plan laid better this way. So, and then east is going to be on the top, and the south is to your right, and then west obviously is the lake. And you can see here the downtown will have a train station, and from the train station we have a linear park, which we call the Lake Promenade, that takes you all the way out to the lake. So you'll be able to arrive on a train and then go from there all the way to the open space and the amenities we'll have on the lake. One thing with our lake and the downtown, we wanted to make sure that we didn't create really large barriers that disconnected our residents and visitors from the waterfront. And so you can kind of see this picture here. It shows a downtown that's separated with an interstate from the lake. On the right side, this is more of what the town had envisioned for, open space where people could come right out, walk on the lake, they could access residential amenities right on the lake. We went through a planning effort with Jeff Speck and DPZ, it's a planning firm, last year. And part of that was envisioning how the lake could look and how the town could transition its downtown to the lake. And so this is just this is the Vineyard Beach Park, the bottom left of this photo, the Vineyard Beach now. So it's really a kind of a small pocket area. So the idea is to expand that out and to make our infrastructure come all the way out there with open space that connects directly to it. Right now we have a lakefront road. I don't know if you've driven on it. I definitely recommend going up there and driving on it. It's a really nice spot to drive, but right now there's a large guardrail that separates the two lanes from the lake path. So this is the current cross section. So this is basically how it looks now. I don't know if you can really see the lines, but it's a very bumpy kind of, road that has been neglected over the years. The idea is to improve that over the next few years. So this is a cross section that shows from the road standpoint, the idea is to widen the pathways, put a pathway both sides, to provide parking. So there's lots of ability for people to get down there, to park, to get close to the lake. And here's another cross section as well. And so the idea is to make it so it's a slow road so that traffic isn't speeding through really quickly, and residents and pedestrians can walk back and forth across the road and access the lake. So it's a safe spot. This is a rendering that shows the area that is the Vineyard Beach Park now. So the parking lot, if you go out there right now, the parking lot would land about right here. So this is where the lake road curves. So the idea is to build an actual boardwalk. And so I know a lot of residents were really excited about that when we went through the planning process last year. But what we wanted to do is actually make a place where you could go to the lake, you could live there, or you could come and visit, and you could access restaurants and retail uses on a ground floor on a boardwalk adjacent to a large park open space that then transitions down into the lakefront. So here's another idea that we're working on. This is more long range. A lot of residents have really wanted us to take more of a proactive role in creating a marina in the city. So we do have the Linden Marina, which is a great resource for our residents, but the idea is creating one that's more of a vineyard marina. So this is just an idea of how that could happen. And most likely this area right here would stay beach, but we do have a large detention pond that was used by the Geneva Steel that's still there that we may be able to convert into a marina space. So what this map is, this one is the actual grant application map. So this is our phase one. I showed you some really big plans, some great ideas. This is the phase one that we applied for the $3 million that Jake talked about through the tourism county grant. And what this would do is it would allow us to expand the beach area right now. And so if you go out there right now, basically where you see 3 and 4 on this map, the Vineyard Beach area consists of basically this right now. It's been cleaned up a lot. Our city's done a great job at getting out there. Tice has worked hard to get us equipment that we can use through the Lake Commission to clean it up. So definitely go out there. It's a beautiful area. But the idea is to take that concept and to expand it out and to bring it all the way down to where the lakefront promenade will land. So the idea is that the two big promenades will be a smaller north promenade, will be connected on the lakeside by a large beachhead. And with that, we also are looking at trying to put in the framework of it so that so people can get out into it. So we're looking at potentially doing 2 piers. With this grant, we may that may be able to help us fund one of those piers. Like I said, it's a phase one, and so really, I think the focus on this will be cleaning up and extending the beach, getting the trails in a better shape, cleaning up that whole area, and then trying to establish kind of one of those piers that go out to the lake. But the idea is that you would have one really long, great area where people can spread out and enjoy the lakefront.
Yeah, one of the biggest problems we have with the lake right now is if you have a wind event, the waves on Utah Lake can be very dangerous. And so part of this plan is to create a sand saver wall out here. So this area will be an area that could be somewhat sheltered from that. So the beach will be protected. You could take a paddleboard or a kayak out here in this area. You'll have good access. It'll be easy to get it down there. And you'll also have safe use. So that's really the plan. We're trying to come up with an area that can be revitalized. We've been doing a lot of cleanup efforts down there, and we've got some really exciting plans. So you should see developments happening as early as next spring. As we're working towards getting that train station open, this promenade's going to be coming in, and then we'll start these lakeshore improvements as well. So Neely, that's pretty much all we had for the Facebook Live today, is just this update on the lake. Have there been any questions submitted?
I put a question box on Instagram and someone asked about the timeline. Did we talk about that at all?
We haven't really talked timeline. We can share with you kind of what our estimates are, but a lot of this is also dependent on the development plans. So the train station is projected to be open by the end of next year. We're hoping by the August change date. So that will be the first thing that we see open. But I would anticipate seeing a lot of these developments starting next spring. We're anticipating Main Street coming in, extending to the north next spring. The promenade, the lake promenade, this first one on the south end that comes from the train station to the lake, that's part of the phase 1 for the development. So that will also start this next spring.
Okay, someone asked about the train station, but you touched on that as well. Then, we have another question. Will 800 North / Vineyard Connector Road be widened? So what will the traffic be like in that area?
Yeah, so we've done a traffic impact study as part of this downtown development. I don't know that UDOT has widening plans on their current budget, but it is something that we're looking at and that UDOT will address as the need comes up.
I believe long-term, the Vineyard Connector is 5 lanes.
Yeah, but in the immediate future, I don't know that there's immediate plans to widen it, but it is a long-term plan to widen it. They built that overpass to allow for widening, so it's just when the demand's there.
Oh, it looks like Graydon just asked when will the front runner stop being complete, but you mentioned.
Yeah, we're planning for August. I think is the August change date is the goal right now.
Okay, I think that's everything.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us again. We're really excited. Thanks, Jake Holdaway, for joining us and giving us your update on the Wakara Way project. We're excited to be a partner in that. And Tice, thanks for being our city council liaison today and sharing the updates from the Lake Commission. Okay, see you later.
Yeah.